Hey everybody, welcome to Garrett's Games. We are doing our end of the year wrap up for 2024 today, our top 10. Now, a couple little pieces of information. Number one, we have just added a bunch of games to our list of games that no longer fit on our table, but belong on your shelves. So, we went through that. We would love for you to support the podcast directly, and you can help by checking out the game list. And if you're local, especially in the Bay Area, we can set up a time to meet. But hey, the games are priced to sell, and we would love to get those out and to wonderful people who, as the year ends, maybe have some extra money. Maybe you have a little bit of funds because somebody didn't buy you the game that you wanted, and hey, it's on the list. Perfect way to get it to you, okay? So
Some of these have been on our shelf a long time.
Some of them,
because
yes.
we've
Some of
loved
them
them,
are classics.
and we were like, oh, we can't get rid of these. We love them too much, but we just can't store them all anymore.
True.
So we're hoping you will love them and give them a second home.
Exactly. If you want to support the podcast directly, you can go to patreon.com/GarrettsGames. Great way to support us as well. Regardless, couple caveats in terms of this list. Oh, by the way, how you doing, honey bunch?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm Doug, by the way.
And I'm Shelley.
And we have a couple caveats. Number one, this year, we had been doing this list almost every year, but doing it like after the first quarter of the year. But we want to get this out at the end of 2024. So the way we've got this is games that we have played in 2024.
Right.
So that means they could have been from in 2023 even. And we just got to them as we were going through here.
And we haven't gotten to all of them either.
That's for sure.
We have a lot of games.
So by the time we get to April, we'll probably do a revised, here's our top of 2024, right? But for now, what we've got is we had 139 games played in 2024 up to this point, and we're recording this on December 22nd. And of those 139 games, we played 348 plays, all right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're going off of. Now, the second thing is we make these lists separately. We hide them from each other.
Yeah.
And so Shelley's list, I haven't seen it.
No.
She hasn't seen my list. We're going to have some crossovers. Of course we're going to have some crossovers.
We played all the games together, so yeah.
Exactly.
There'll be many crossovers.
But one thing that I think is really interesting is that because we have no idea, Shelley really took this seriously.
I have it on my computer, which is off screen.
She does, yes. But so yesterday, I'm like, okay, hey, we should record the 2024 best of. And I was like, okay, it's about noon. So we had an early lunch, and I was like, so she should be done,
10 minutes.
by 1 at the latest. And 2 o'clock rolls around. Now, she had a little bit of break in between that. But 2 o'clock rolls around and she said, I'm almost done. And then we sit down on the couch last night. And I'm like, so did you get through all of it? I mean, she's like, I didn't see this one game. I'm like, well, did you get on page 2? And she's like, there were 2 pages?
I didn't know there were 2 pages.
Yes, there were 2 pages. I called up my BGG thing. And so she did a little bit of possible revision there as well. So
because I was thinking, I really love that game. Why isn't it on there? Why is that game on there? Yeah.
Oh, so
this was hard because there was a lot of great games. And I know there's still a lot of great ones to play.
That is true. Yes, we've got all. So if you don't hear something on this list, it's possibly because we haven't played it yet.
We haven't played Steady. We haven't played Tea Garden.
Exactly.
We haven't played so many of these games that we know we're going to love. So
exactly.
So.
All right, so we're going to start with a few honorable mentions as we do. So even though this is a top 10, for me it's like, okay, there's 10 and then there's 5 honorable mentions. I don't know how many honorable mentions you have.
I don't even know. There's probably about that many.
Okay, so we'll go back and forth. You want to start?
If you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, I have a feeling that some of these will be on your top 10 list and such like that. Yeah. Well, I would have to say one of my honorable mentions is Garden Guest.
Okay.
And that is by Stephen Glenn.
Yeah.
And it is a beautiful game. It's really very pretty. But you're basically taking flower cards and you're working with your partner across the table from you.
Yeah.
and you're trying to make your flowers go across the table.
Yeah.
You make
it
towers,
doesn't have to be played in teams, but it could be.
and it's really fun in teams, and I would highly recommend it in teams. We played it also just the two of us, and we liked it as well quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
But working in teams, you get to either play your cards down to make a tower that you're going to go to, or you're playing your cards down, lots of cards, flowers, to connect your towers up, so you're trying to get across the board. It's really fun.
All right. My first honorable mention will be Pixies from Pandasaurus Games. It is a cute little card game. We did a review on it just recently. Great little card game, beautiful artwork, and you're creating a grid in front of you, and you're trying to validate cards by getting a second card of the same type, but you have a grid of 1 to 9, and they, one's go in the 1 slot, 9's go in the 9 slot, and there are certain numbers of each, more of the middle numbers rather than on the edges. And really enjoyed Pixies, and so that's one you can pop in your pocket and take it along for you. So Pixies from Pandasaurus Games, my first honorable mention.
Awesome one. All right, my next honorable mention is Unconscious Minds.
Ooh.
Now, I have a feeling this will be much higher on Doug's list. However, I love this game. It's fantastic. It's so beautiful. The artwork, the theme of it's really interesting because it's about, Freud and his people.
Acolytes, yes, exactly.
And the cards are really interesting because they have these overlays on them. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that later, I think.
It's possible. It's possible that may
but
show up later.
It's very
all right, an honorable mention for that one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My second honorable mention is Chu Han. This is a 2-player trick-taking game from Tom Lehman and Madigo. And I love the fact, Tom is at Meeple Fest with us in late July. Go back and listen to the Meeple Fest episodes of our podcast if you haven't done so. And he introduced this, and it was great. And then I got a chance to play it with Nolan, my nephew, and he loved it. So we got a copy of it for him. And it was just a great experience, as well as an interesting game of that back and forth as you're doing a shedding game in Chu Han. So that's my honorable mention.
I love that. All right. My next honorable mention is Trio.
Oh.
Now, we played this game many, many times. It is a fun game because you have your cards that are put in order from lowest to highest.
In your hand.
In your hand. And all you can do is ask someone across, or any of your people you're playing with, can you show me your lowest card? Can you show me your highest card?
Or you can turn over one from the middle.
Or the one that's in the middle, and that's dependent on the number of players.
Yeah, or you could play your lowest or highest as well.
Right, and if you get 3 sets of 3, you win. Or if you get the 7s, because those are in the middle, and you can never take cards from the middle. You can only take from your ends of your hands.
Exactly.
And so it's just it's an experience game.
Yes.
Actually, I would put it as just so much fun to play with many, many, many players.
Yeah, this is a great non-gamers game.
Everyone will love this game.
To get to the table.
It's
great for holidays and with family,
it's wonderful.
Definitely. Okay, all right. My third one is Hens. This is from Little Rocket. It is actually a 2023 Essen release, and we enjoyed this. You're collecting sets and you're making your array and everything like that, and you're trying to get hens next to other hens and stuff like that. Really enjoyed this one. Another small box game that was enjoyable. It may appear higher on Shelley's list. Possibly.
Actually, it's on my honorable mention list.
Oh,
it
is?
Well.
Hey,
I do love this game because you're playing cards and you can only play one that's up, down, or one up or one down from the hen that's next to it. Exactly. Or if it's in the same type of breed, you can put any of them.
But
true. The cards affect each other, and then it's such a good thing. It's really fun. I did not think this would necessarily make your list, but I knew
honorable mention.
It definitely made my honorable
mention. All right.
Too, so
okay.
That's nice
all right. That nice our first crossover there.
Yeah, that's
all
awesome.
right. Let's see. My next, I have 2 more here that to deal. So Aqua is from Sunrise Tornado. Small little card game. Beautiful artwork by the designer, Tate Wu. He does the artwork as well. And we even played this on trains in Europe as we were in.
And everyone's like, wow,
what is that game?
That's so beautiful.
what's cool is you're building out an array, a shared array, and you've got somebody's going to score the columns and the other player is going to score the rows. And so you're working to try to get the cards beneficial to you without helping your opponent in the
without
same
busting
way. Yeah.
and getting your number too big where you can't score.
Exactly, because you have to get the score between 10 and 20 for it to count for your points.
That's
so
great
that one. Okay. And do you have one more?
I do. I have one more, and that is Dune, Imperium, Uprising.
Oh, okay.
Because, well, Dune has made my top 10 probably a few years.
Yeah, yeah.
So I love the game. I think it's great, and I really liked what this one did, with adding the worms in there.
Yeah, yeah.
It
streamlined some things, added some interesting aspects. I'm with you on that.
It's a great game.
Okay. All right. My last honorable mention is Daybreak. This is from Matt Laycock and CMYK, and it is a cooperative game. Matt's known for those, about climate change. It won the Kenner Spiel des Jahres this year. I think it's an excellent game, beautifully packaged, beautifully presented, interesting card dynamics as you are trying to build up your strength in a particular area, where the card that's on top of a column is the action that you get, but the symbols that are on there trigger it to make it better. So you are trying to make things better. You each have a different country or group of countries, and you're trying to eliminate the pollution so that the temperature rise doesn't get to the point where it can never come back from it.
And it's cooperative, so you all have to win or you all lose.
Yes, exactly.
And you have to help each other, and there are opportunities to give cards. And it's really nice because it can support gamers because you're supporting each other to be able to accomplish this, but you can help someone out because you're working together on the game.
But it's not like what happens in some cooperative games where there's one person who can kind of dominate and micromanage the entire thing. No, definitely. You are in control.
You're in control of your own
thing.
stuff and the things you put in front of you, but you're, if someone might say, oh, I need this kind of card, I need this windmill or whatever.
Right.
And so, oh, I have ability in my display to give that to you.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's an amazing game.
Okay, guys. It's time for our top 10.
That's right.
So number 10. What's your number 10, Honey Bunch?
My number 10 is Arc Nova by Matthias Wiggy.
Wow.
And I, of course, love Terraforming Mars, and there is some definite similarity with the game in terms of just a huge deck of cards.
That's true.
So and they're animals, and of course I love animals too. So there's over 250 different animals, and you're getting an animal from the display, or maybe from the top of a deck, depending on powers that you have from animals that you've already played, or you're making an association with another with a country or
another zoo. Another zoo, yeah.
A zoo. You have corporations. There's lots of things that you can do. But you're basically building your own zoo. So you're building enclosures as well. And what I like about the game is that the cards, if you let the cards keep them in your play longer, they're more powerful.
Yeah.
So you may want to do a certain card earlier, but
in terms of actions, you have these action cards, and as they get further along, you kind of rotating them in
right. So you might take one that gives you just a small action, but most probably you're going to need to build a bigger enclosure or buy a more expensive animal, so you're going to have to go higher. So, I think that's
Arc Nova.
My number 10.
Okay. All right. Interesting. All right. My number 10 is Footprints from Chili Fox Games. This is a subsidiary or connected to Aporta Games as well. And it is a race game of sorts. You are Neanderthals and you are racing from one end of the board to the other to try to score the most points. There's caves to go into. And you have to move along a certain path, a certain type of landscape as you move, and you're trying to reach goals and so on. It's just a fun, straightforward game. My one knock against it is that the color schemes aren't the best, but other than that, I think Footprints by Chili Fox Games is a really solid contender for, and that was an SN 2023 release.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, that's a fun one.
What's your number 9?
Number 9 is Xylotar by Christopher Ray.
Yeah, Chris Ray, yeah.
And what I love about it is you are setting up your opponent's hand in terms of highest and lowest.
Yeah.
And then you're passing it to them and they lay it out. They don't know exactly what they have, but they have some ideas because the cards, what the range of cards. So maybe pink is only, a certain number of cards and
0 to something.
Yeah,
all of them are
yeah.
0 to something.
And then so you kind of get an idea because of the cards that are placed, but you don't exactly know.
That's true.
And then your neighbor knows a little bit about what they've given you. So there's this information that you have, but your goal is you're laying it out like a Xylotar. So
yeah, because the cards are nice, these long, thin cards, which are cool as well. They look
so
really
you're playing. You have to follow suit if you can. It's a trick-taking card game.
Yeah,
but I think it's just really fun, and it's hard to know, like, when should you try to do your bid, and if you think you know what those cards are, how many tricks you're going to take, and
it's true.
It's great.
Okay, all right, number 9 for Xylotar, huh? All right, my number 9 is one of your honorable mentions. This is Garden Guests. This is from Van Ryder Games, as we said. This is that game where you are working to do the cooperative with a team, I should say, to try to get from one side of the board to the other side of the board. So there's some blocking that's going on. We've had some really great games of this where, we were like, oh, we are totally out of it, but then we were able to get back into it, and it was so close because, cards, you have the luck of the cards come in, but you're also trying to, you can give cards to your teammate, and that's an option.
But you can't ask for those cards.
You can't ask for them.
You have to see where they might go and figure it out, right?
Exactly. So I thought this was a really fun game and worth checking out. Garden Guests, that is my number 9.
Good plan. My number 8 is Stevens by Roland Costa.
Oh, okay.
I have a feeling that's probably on your list as well. It is a fantastic game. You're a glass maker, or you're working in a glass factory.
Yes.
You're trying to make the country better after the earthquake.
Yeah, exactly, and the tsunami.
It's so awesome because when you're taking resources off the board, that's activating all the workers that have been put into that column or that row, and that's from all the players.
Yes.
So you're
pretty cool.
So you're really you're all kind of paying attention. It's not
you're all involved in everybody's turn.
And it's a race game, so it's very fast too. But it's a great think. Yes. And then your own personal board has a lot of powers on it too.
As you're trying to take things off to get
what things you want to take off and you want to take many things off, and you can't.
You can't do everything.
And you want to get many resources, but there's so few out on the board, and it's great.
All right. So you're number 8, Stevens, huh?
Yeah.
All right. My number 8 is Unconscious Mind. All right. So this is where Unconscious Mind fits. It's heavy. And there's a lot involved. It's a very involved game. But as Shelley's saying, it is a beautiful design that comes together well, where thematically that ties in really well with the way in which the mechanisms in the game work. So I really enjoyed Unconscious Mind. Johnny Pack, as the head designer there, did a great job. Lucky Duck Games and what is the other? Fantasia Games is the primary publishers there. Beautiful design as well. So Unconscious Mind is my number 8.
Okay. My number 7 is Amritsar, the Golden Temple. Now, I love this game. It has a Mancala.
It does. She loves the Mancala.
Has a very, very big elephant where you put your resources in. But what's wonderful is there's lots of different color workers, and you have to decide which one's going to end up in the spot that you want in terms of the things you're going to be activating.
True, yeah.
And it's such a good thing. And
it's got big elephants.
And it has huge elephants,
which carry your stuff as you're going around in the Mancala.
And sometimes you're wishing you had that. Those are your not gifts, I forget what you call them, but
your resources.
But they're the things that you're giving to the temple.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
But sometimes your offerings. But then sometimes you don't have any in your elephant. And so you have to be able to pick things up at the right time. You have to be able to, you have cards where you're trying to get certain types of offerings in each of the size of levels of the pyramid.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful.
Yeah, good choice, Honey Bunch. All right. My number 7 is Galileo Galilei. This is from Pink Troubadour, and it is an amazing game where you've got this telescope that is choosing your actions, and then the actions then rotate and become unavailable. So a little bit like what we were talking about with Arc Nova, but here they go completely out of the ability for you to use them again, but you can move that telescope wherever you want, and then you've got just this great interaction that is going on. But I like that action choice mechanism in Galileo Galilei quite a bit.
Yeah, and you're building, you're trying to accomplish, see the constellations.
Exactly.
The Inquisitors are there. So they're
got to deal with those Inquisitors.
Those are bad, and you're trying to, collect up a bunch of those without taking one away, because if you there's different ways that when you take them away, you get punished.
Right,
more.
Exactly.
So you want to do them a bunch at a time.
So you got to balance those actions as you go forward.
This is on my list too.
Oh,
I love this game.
Might be a little higher, huh?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit higher. Right. But I think it is fantastic. Then you have powers, for your person. Yeah. And you're really trying to work towards that to make your, get as much.
We'll see where it is on Shell's list. Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. What's your number 6, hon?
My number 6 is Mini Express by Matt Garrett. Mm-hmm. And I think this game is so much fun. Yeah. Because you're either building track or you're buying stock, but you can only buy stock if you have enough of it. And it's available, of course, too. Yeah. That's the other thing. But that's going to, of course, limit the amount you actually have in terms of you have the stock, but you have to have the other track high in order for that stock to even matter. Right.
You've got to get the balance right in terms of stock and track.
And that balance is really fun.
Right. And, it is a stock game that is not, doesn't hurt my head.
No. It's a stock game that I really like. Yeah. So, there's only 3 resources in the game, and you're going to a city and you're getting those resources. And that, of course, makes your tracks go up. And then that's what you're going to use to buy. But the board for buying is also interesting because once somebody buys, then different amounts come in.
Different amounts come in, exactly.
Yeah, so it's...
Yeah, now the reason we got this one, even though it's a few years old...
Oh, sorry.
No, is because we got some of the expansions that came out. Yeah. So with the expansion maps, we like that when that happens. Yes. It gets things back off the shelf.
We love that. Definitely. So this is a game that we've liked in the past, and I really enjoyed the expansions we got for it, too.
All right. Number 6 is one of Shelley's honorable mentions. This is Dune Imperium Uprising. This was an interesting one because it is a standalone game. We really like Dune Imperium, as Shelley was talking about. But Uprising, it adds some different aspects of where you can place your people, because this is a worker placement game. And with the worms, the sandworms, which are an integral part of the Dune universe, you now have them as part of the game. And I mean, come on, sandworms? That's awesome. Had to include it.
And mine would have been higher, but because I had already put it on my other list in the past, I let me give some space for some other things.
I see. Okay. All right.
So yeah, I agree. That is
so Dune Imperium Uprising was my number 6.
Well, my number 5 is Amygdala by Michael Kiesling and Wolfgang Kramer.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a beautiful game.
It is very beautiful.
I mean, there's an artistic, you can even do the backside just because you want it to look different. I mean, it's very cool. But it's an abstract. It's about, balancing all the bits of your mind, I guess.
Right, exactly.
But it's definitely an abstract. But you have your own personal board where you are trying to... place certain colors onto the board, and then you're doing some area majority within the board, which of course I love area majority.
You love your area majority. Yes, that's true.
But then you're trying to unlock certain things around
as you're taking taking things off,
and you have to do things in certain orders, or you have to, and you have this
when you also have that
constraint of
the constraint of how much you can have in your area.
Yeah, there's
it's like only your brain can only hold so much information, and that's represented by your resources. Only so many things can be there. So I think it's interesting because if you pay for something and you make change, that's 1 coin, and maybe you get 3 coins in return.
And you only have space to hold 10 things.
Exactly.
And
that's a good choice.
Yeah, that's a great game.
It is a great game. All right, my number 5 is HiFi. This is from Mandala Yogos and Smirk and Dagger. When we saw this on the shelf at BGG Con, it was like, okay, this is cool. And then we opened the box, and it just got cooler and cooler and cooler. Yeah. We did a whole review of this one. Yep. It is beautiful. The theme is fantastic in terms of creating a song, and you're using cards which have the waves
wavelengths
for the songs, exactly, with the drummer and the singer and the bass player and the guitarist. And then you have different goals that you've set. And, you've got your knobs that you're putting out to claim, areas and get points even on another player's turn. So it's really got some excellent thing, to the point where we were in Las Vegas, and there just happened to be a game store there, which is an amazing game store, by the way, and wandered in, and Shelley's like, "Oh, HiFi, we played that. We don't have that. Do we have space in the bag?" I'm like, "Oh, God,
we made space in the bag.
We made space in the bag, so we can make sure that we had a copy of that."
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because you're scoring, you're scoring at the end of every turn.
Yes.
But you have to choose, you have to make it so that, are you accomplishing things like the time in which the minutes that the song would take?
Right.
Is it based on your wavelengths? Is it based on the different performers?
It's so great how the theme is integrated into what you're doing. Yeah.
This was the big surprise.
Yeah.
Of
the year for you.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought it was just so amazing and fun, and
Agreed.
It's a great
All
game.
right. Okay. That was my number 5.
My number 4 is Galileo Galilei, which of course you made your list too.
All right, so where was that for
game.
me? That is number 7, so higher on Shelley's list.
It's so much fun, and this is amazing that it's a first-time designer, right?
Yeah, but he had 3 games out this year.
3 games.
Right? We still have to play 2 of them, so
we've had time to play.
It's possible that they could wind up higher.
Yeah.
Galileo Galilei from Pink Troubadour, great game, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, my number 4 then is one that was an honorable mention on Shelley's.
Yeah.
I think I was looking for variety. Right. This is where Trio is for me.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's great.
It is. We had so much fun with this, with friends who don't play games, with people at Meeple Fest, late night Meeple Festers, just everybody who we pulled this out for. It is fun. The one thing that people tend to do, and you got to make sure, is they forget that even from their own hand, you can't take from the middle. You got to take from the one side or the other, high or low. But Trio is a very fun game, and we've had a great time with all numbers. I think it plays 3 to 6, and we've played all of those numbers, and it's always really
great, no matter what. Yeah. Probably should have been higher.
That's my number 4.
Yeah, it's a good choice, my dear. All right, and my number 3 is Steam Power.
My number 3 is Steam Power as well. Direct crossover. Woohoo! All right.
No, I think I love this game.
Yeah.
I mean,
Shelley has already stated numerous times that she really loves this game.
And I've also stated, and I've never stated this before, that I think it should be nominated for the
Kenner Spiel des Jahres. I don't think it's going to, but hey,
I think
more power to you if it does.
Martin Wallace hit this game out of the park.
I think it's
so fun.
Yes.
And there's 2, the boards are made of cloth, so that we're hoping that there'll be some expansions coming our way, because they could be easily sent. It wouldn't cost too much money just putting that out there.
Yeah. Martin, if you're looking,
so you get
we can help you out with that.
2 actions with a turn.
Yeah.
Which is either you take basically contracts you're trying to do, you play track. What was the other 2? I don't remember, but they're very simple.
Yeah, very straightforward. You can take money.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
But the thing is so good.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and because you're putting out the tokens to start the game of what the different resource, what the towns are going to have. Right. It changes every time. And so all of that variability in a very straightforward rule set makes this a great hit out of the park home run for me, too. Yeah,
and you can put factories that not even connected to your things.
Yes.
Because you want to build a factory, and you have to do the contracts, which need certain resources. Yep. And if you can get the resources from something that's connected to your line, you have to do it. You have to pay for it.
Yes, you have to pay others for it.
Yeah. And so there's definitely interaction with that.
Yes.
You also have choices with how many goods you put into the factories.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great game. So both of our number 3s.
I cannot
Steam
believe
Power.
that. So I'm kind of wondering.
All right. What's your number 2?
I have a feeling they might be the same.
Okay.
Number 2 for me is Umbrella.
It is not. No.
Oh, okay. No. I love this game. It has this. You have umbrellas. You have there's a 4x4 grid. You start with 4 umbrellas, and then there's shared boards between the players.
Right.
There's one in the middle, and there's your own area behind you.
That's true.
And you're trying to match umbrellas with like, I guess,
patterns right? Yeah.
that are on your board that that get given to you by
so
by your opponent.
Well, that you start with some, and then you have.
And there's a certain orientation in which those have
right.
to be. So you would take a color. So you're trying to get a certain colors together. So
right.
you take one from one board and you push it onto your board and slide it, and that's going to make one go
right.
onto the other board.
Remember those little plastic things where there was one piece that was not in, and you were trying to design the thing? It works kind of like that, but you're pushing it in, sliding something completely out, and that winds up on the board over here. So if I take here, then it slides in and then comes out over on the other side. We did a video on this one as well as it was on our podcast. I see your point. Yeah.
This game. Yeah. I think it's fun when you're trying to figure out how to make these patterns and then you see that you have other patterns that you might be able to do as well, because you have 4 available to you. And so you don't want to mess up something else you're trying to work on as well.
All right.
And sometimes you can't get the colors you want because they're not on the boards that you want. So you have to
or you
make it like multiple steps to push something up, to grab it up here, and then move it around.
Or somebody takes the one in a particular color that you were just about to take, which totally would have made a pattern on your board, but now they've taken it.
Yes, and then yes, for sure, dear, to happen to us all the time, because once you get a group of one color on your board, that's when you're trying to see if you can accomplish more of them using that same color.
Yep.
Because you've already put them on there.
All right.
Yeah, I just think
it is great.
It's great.
All right. My number 2 is Spectacular. Spectacular from Chili Fox Games. Also did Footprints, all right, the year before. This is a great little game of dice and token drafting as you're getting animals into your zoo and you're trying to group things together, and the dice values determine some certain things. There's scoring in 2 different sets at 2 different times, where you basically, because you have these little cardboard holding areas that then get passed between the players, or back and forth if you're playing 2. So that as soon as that runs out in the first round, you're going to have one type of scoring, and then you also have your own personal set of dice as well. And those are going to be going animals. Sorry. And as soon as those run out, that'll be for the second round, and that will determine the end of the game. So these 2 things are happening, and it's different scoring, and it's just this great puzzly little game that you have some fun with, and that is Spectacular from Chili Fox. My number 2.
Well, Spectacular is spectacular. It's my number 1.
Woo!
I think it is fantastic. You're trying to get. You have to make sure that when you're taking one from your board, one from the shared board that's going to be moving around. Yeah. And that's each time. So sometimes you're putting the food, which is represented by dice, onto the animal that gets that color food. Right. And if you don't get a dice on the animal, that animal can't even score. So you need to do that.
You got to do it.
Yeah. So, I mean.
But then you want to get the highest value. So but then 6s can only go on particular things. And
you have to really work to get these towers that are specific by color in order to get the 6s even on the board. Right. So, I mean, you're trying to score the most in each color you possibly can. And it is.
Very fun.
And everybody's board everybody starts with a different set of animals. True. And then one of the other scorings is, variety of animals too. Yes. So there's a lot of ways that you're trying to get the points.
Right, because not all of the animals that you have, or I should say, all of the animals in the game are not represented in the animals that you have. So you're going to want to take animals from the shared one so that to get that variety. But
and you have to have breeding pairs, which means you had to work on those, and those are only value of dice of 1 and 2, and you had to put dedicated 1 or 2 dice to that as well. So sometimes you might, not even be able to score an area if you don't get a breeding pair or whatever.
Exactly. Really solid, spectacular. So that was your number 1. Oh yeah. All right. Well, my number 1
could it be?
Is also on Shelley's list. Another crossover. That is Stevens. I think Stevens is just fantastic. This is, this was a year of a lot of heavy games, some of which we haven't played because we didn't have time really to get this heavy game to the table. So it's like, okay, well, let's get this game. And Stevens was one of the first games we played after Essen. And it really was a highlight because it hit that kind of middle to heavyweight game level, which I really like. And so, because there's some really good things, but it plays quickly, as Shelley said when she was talking about it earlier. And as we said in our review and when we talked about it, even on a video, it is a game that is a race game. Even Costa said, make sure you realize this is a race game because you've got to deal with the fact that Napoleon is coming and he's going to invade, and that triggers the end of the game. And it happens faster than you think. If you are doing it as an engine builder, which some people have played it as, that is not as effective because you've just got to make do with the best that you've got. And I love that idea of you're taking resources off and then they go back on before you can actually get them for your own. So there's that back and forth of how you are getting your resources and how you're triggering other people's actions as you do an action, and how the game speeds up because after one of the furnaces is empty, that's one of the triggers, right? And then when you reset the board, it's reset with fewer things, right? And so it could be just quick in terms of how this goes, but it is really interesting with all of the possible variables as where am I going to put out my workers? Where are going to make them do the work that I'm going to know that should happen? And hopefully Shelley's going to trigger those workers as well as hopefully I'm going to get to trigger them too, given the possibilities and the vagaries out there on the board.
And also you can't always get the resources you want because you have to have these different influence tracks in order to be able to make those go down in order to get them.
Oh, I know.
But then when that goes down, you can't get those points. And it's just this, it's when you think about it, it is I guess a middleweight game, but it's a heavy think.
There's some good heavy think in it, definitely. Fun. Yeah, so that is Stevens, my number one game from Pile Up Games and Rolla and Costa. Whew.
Wow.
We did it.
We did.
There were some crossovers,
there
but
were.
not as many as we might have
really
thought. Shelley was like, we're going to have everything, crossovers everywhere. Well, there were some. Okay, so let's see. On my list, we had crossovers. Trio was in my top, but it was honorable. Steam Power was our perfect crossover. Yes. Spectacular, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Did you have HiFi?
Well, I had that as a
surprise.
We
were thinking, but we're doing that. Yeah.
Our biggest surprise,
right?
And awesome fun, and also we had only at that time I played it twice,
right?
And
that's
so
true.
Usually
we had a lot of crossovers. It was just interesting how it paired out in terms of honorable mentions versus what we had there. Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed this. These are games that are definitely staying on our shelves, so they're not going to be on that list down below, but they are ones that you might want to think about checking out. We'd love to hear what you think about them. We'd love to hear what you think about our list. If there's any games that you are not seeing on our list that you're like, why haven't you put this one on your list? Let us know. Put it down in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Remember, down in those comments is that extensive list of games that no longer fit on our table but belong on your shelves. You can help support the podcast there. Patreon.com/Garrett's Games, another way to help support the podcast. And we've got more of these videos coming out. We hope you subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and have an amazing end to your 2024. 2025 is going to be awesome. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.